Si je n'étais pas votre invité, je vous en demanderais raison.
J'ignorais que cette coutume chevaleresque était à l'honneur dans votre contrée à demi sauvage.
Monsieur, vous venez d'insulter la République de Miranda.
De vous à moi, la République de Miranda, je m'en soucie comme d'une guigne.
Et moi, je conchis votre armée dans sa totalité.
The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie is a 1972 surrealist satirical comedy film that's written and directed by Buñuel. So, Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie won last week's Patreon poll, and I was extremely excited about that because Buñuel is an incredibly influential filmmaker, especially when it comes to the surrealist aspect of filmmaking. And I just really haven't dived that much into his work. I have seen The Exterminating Angel. I own it on Criterion, little Kino Lord Flex there. And I've also seen that famous short film that he made with Salvador Dali. I believe it's called An Andalusian Dog. It's that really just dark and macabre surrealist short film where it has that famous scene of the girl getting her eye slit. And when I watched that film, it's like the entire time I was thinking, if films like this didn't exist, because that film came back in 1929, so that's a pretty damn old film. If films like that didn't exist, I think it's highly probable that we wouldn't have filmmakers like David Lynch, because that entire film feels incredibly Lynchian. Or really, I should say David Lynch's work feels really Buñuelian or Dalian or whatever. Yeah, so with all that being said, I haven't really seen much of his work, at least from the films that I've seen from him and the ones that I've heard of. Buñuel just loves critiquing elite culture and just loves kind of making fun of them in a really satirical way, but also, in general, just not even elite culture, but also power structures in general, whether it's the military, whether it's, again, like just the bourgeoisie, uppity culture, whether it's just religion as well. The Exterminating Angel and also The Discreet Charm of Bourgeoisie definitely doesn't hold back in criticizing the power structures of religion. The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, I know that was like a huge lead up to this. I think it's a pretty great film, to be honest with you. This is a film that I can really see why people consider Buñuel to be one of the masters of surrealism. And what's so great about it and what's so unique about this film is that, yeah, like, it's incredibly surreal, but it's not like surreal in the sense to where it's trying so hard. Like, I would not compare this to that short film I mentioned earlier that he made back in 1929 to where that feels like incredibly Lynchian. Like, it's not, this film isn't so incredibly surreal in the same way that, like, David Lynch's Eraserhead is. It's surreal just in its overall approach and not even necessarily style, but more of its vision. Because there's a lot of things that just don't really make sense in your mind in terms of incorporating a lot of elements of juxtaposition, in terms of things that you're just not usually used to seeing put together. Whether it's a group of bourgeoisie friends that are dressed in this incredibly fancy and formal way, and they're all walking down this seems to be abandoned nature road that seems to lead to nowhere. There's that kind of juxtaposition there, and there's also just like, it's full of stuff like that. Like, there's a scene where somebody pulls like a raw head of lettuce and a gun, like right after the lettuce. There's somebody who pulls a gun out of a super nice like china vase. There's just things like that in this film that not only are just really odd to see, but also make a point about elitism and just kind of exposes the kind of hypocrisy and the kind of arrogant ways of living. Like, there are many scenes in this film that demonstrate how obsessed these characters are with the knowledge of formalities, especially the formalities that they feel like only the wealthy could really know, that are present in this elite bubble. You know, whether it's knowing which glass to pour a martini in, whether it's knowing the proper way to drink a martini. And they kind of get, there's a scene, at least in particular, where they kind of get off at mocking somebody without their knowledge, in terms of them not really knowing how to properly drink a martini. And it's like that kind of stuff to where it's funny, but it's also there to kind of make a point about just how smug, ignorant, and arrogant this kind of bubble can be, and how they kind of look down upon other people who they don't think are as educated or as classy as they are. But to get back to the point about how this film demonstrates its surrealism, kind of went off track there about the thematic relevance, but the way this film demonstrates its surrealism is that essentially this film gets incredibly surreal like in the second half, really, because the first half of this, I won't even say the first half, but the first like 25 minutes or so of this, it feels like a relatively normal film. Like it feels like, mostly conventional. Yeah, there's some interesting uses of, irony and, again, like a lot of contradictory stuff present. But, like, nothing really seems, like, super out of the ordinary. And not really anything you wouldn't experience in real life. But then the second half of this film pretty much goes down this really dreamlike rabbit hole to where Buñuel draws the line between dream and reality so incredibly thin and just gets blurred to the max. And I'm not going to really say exactly what he does because I don't want to spoil the film for those who haven't seen it. But he goes down this road to the point where it's quite literally impossible to decipher what's real and what's not. And it does get repetitive, especially like in the second half of this film when you start seeing the kind of route Buñuel is going with this film. And in a way, it's a slight con because you're essentially just waiting for the next thing that's going to happen, which you know is going to happen. But at the same time, I think it's a pro because it further intensifies the layers of surrealism in this film. And because essentially this film is actually like plotless. Like there's not really like a sense of getting to A to B in this film. Essentially, this film is the same bougie friends who continue to try to have a proper dinner party, but the dinner parties just continue to be interrupted by sometimes things that aren't that crazy, but then sometimes things that are just like completely out there. And I think it's quite hilarious because I think it expresses like the kinds of concerns and the anxieties that these kind of people have that live in this wealthy bubble. A lot of their anxieties are literally just, I want to be able to have a dinner party in the most formal way that I possibly can. And it's like, that's like their only worries in the world is to make sure that what they have planned goes to plan. And it seems like this entire film, everything that they have planned, never comes to fruition. Whether it's eating or even sex. There's like a few scenes in this film where nobody can have sex because that also gets interrupted. And I think that's also hilarious. And there's also a scene in this film that I found genuinely unsettling. And it basically just involves a boy seeing her mother through like a door frame. And it was genuinely creepy, just the way it was done. And I also love how, like, in this scene that I'm talking about, this is a dream sequence that's coming from a soldier character. And I love how the dream sequences that are told by this soldier character feel like they're a lot more genuine, like in the sense that he has real important anxieties and has an actual traumatic past that, make his dreams a lot more insightful and also a little bit more authentic. And again, also genuinely unsettling. But the vast majority of this film is actually pretty funny. Like, it's not like sketch comedy, laugh out loud hilarious. But a lot of it is really subtle. A lot of it is tongue-in-cheek humor. Because it's all demonstrated through its satire, but it never feels like it's really beating you over the head or trying to preach this obvious message to you. And it's just because of how much this film was dealt with finesse by Luis Buñuel. Because there are parts that are like genuinely hilarious, but again, they're not like, it's not hilarious in the sense that you're gut busting with laughter. For instance, like there's a scene where these two characters essentially kick somebody out of their house because just based on appearance, they wouldn't believe what he was saying. But as they kick this person out of their house, these two characters also have incredibly messy hair and blades of grass in their hair that they literally had no idea about when they did that. So it's kind of like this really hilarious, incredibly hypocritical and arrogant demonstration of the bourgeoisie culture. But yeah, I love the satirical nature of this film. I love the surrealist nature of this film. I love how it demonstrates hypocrisy. I love just the overall absurdity of this film as well. There's some really absurd moments in this film. And overall, like, I think this is just a really unique and creative film that doesn't feel like it's trying too hard to feel dreamlike, to feel surreal, but still manages to make you feel like you just experienced something that's like in the multiverse or something. So I'm going to give The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie a solid 8 out of 10. I'm not sure how many Luis Buñuel fans that I have, like in terms of subscribers. I don't know how many of you guys like really love this guy and how many films that you've seen from him. But I know that he has so many films, and I'm really excited to dive more into this guy's work. Criterion holds a shitload of them. I think he has a box set, so maybe I'll try to watch a few more, and if I really like them, I'll check out the box set. I have Exterminating Angel. I really wasn't that huge on it, to be honest with you. I like The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie a lot more than Exterminating Angel. Not that Exterminating Angel is a bad movie. I think it's fine, and there are things that I really appreciate about it, but overall, like, I feel like I didn't get that much out of it. But either way, that's for maybe another review one day. But either way, if you really enjoyed what I had to say about The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, please give this video a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.